Hello everyone and welcome to my channel RPG Retro Reviews. My name is Captain Courageous and I review old school and new school modules and games and talk about how you can infuse them with an old school feel. With the announcement of the 2 new adventures in Waterdeep for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, I wanted to talk about how I addressed the death and resurrection of Halaster Blackcloak, the Mad Mage of Undermountain, in my own campaign. If you haven't heard the news yet, Wizards of the Coast just recently announced the coming release of 2 adventures, Waterdeep Dragon Heist and Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Dungeon Heist promises to be a fun romp through the city with an Ocean's 11 fantasy feel heist caper for levels 1 through 5, while Dungeon of the Mad Mage promises to continue the adventure below the streets of the city with a detailed exploration of the deepest dungeon of them all, Undermountain. A few years ago, I did a detailed 2-part series on Waterdeep and Undermountain, and since I've been running campaigns there for several decades, you can imagine my interest in these 2 releases, especially the latter. Now it seems that besides the time jump, Wizards of the Coast has pretty much undone the atrocity of the spell plague wrought on the Forgotten Realms to make way for 4th edition. The weave has returned, dead gods are born anew, and the peoples of the realms awake from a nightmare disaster, much like we old school gamers, with one notable exception. Halaster Blackcloak is still dead, or is he? Since he is featured rather prominently on the cover of the module and the description promises to explore the 23 levels of Undermountain in detail, I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that somehow Halaster managed to survive his ordeal with death. The last we heard of Halaster was in the module Expedition to Undermountain. Apparently Halaster's soul was torn asunder while trying to cast a spell to hold back the spell plague, or something like that. The details were sketchy, but his death caused an earthquake and a deep chasm to open up on the first level of Undermountain and a couple other things. And that's pretty much how it's been ever since. Last year, I looked over the repairs that Wizards of the Coast had done to the setting and the updates in the supplement Sword Coast Adventures. I decided if I ever ran Forgotten Realms again, I would restart my Undermountain campaign, and ultimately, that's what happened, as the characters in my campaign were inadvertently hurled through a planar void. Just as a side note, I'm a very sandboxy type dungeon master, and player characters' choices really matter. I frequently have no idea what's going to happen, what they're going to do, or where things are going to progress. So them getting hurled through the planar void was as much a shock to me, the DM, as perhaps it was to the players themselves. What I did in this case is I passed out some index cards and asked the players to write one of the following: Greyhawk, Forgotten Realms, Primeval Fool, Aired, or Mystara. Forgotten Realms got the most votes, and the heroes ended up crash landing on the outskirts of Waterdeep. Now, my players all know my fondness for this setting and Undermountain. They've seen the videos. The shelves of supplements are right there in the game room, so they were all pretty excited to explore the city. The Yawning Portal, meet Durnan, go into Undermountain, and so on. Their enthusiasm at this sudden direction change in the campaign was infectious, and my Undermountain campaign was in full swing once more, except for one thing. How was I going to handle the absence of Halaster? Admittedly, I could have just ignored it and said it never happened, or I could have a bit of fun with it. I decided to have a bit of fun. In my review of Undermountain, I made my displeasure of Wizards of the Coast killing off of the DM surrogate character quite known. Halaster's soul was torn apart, his clone was useless. How could I fix it? And then an idea came to me, and I must admit I chuckled evilly at the solution. I'm fairly certain that I even wrangled my hands together as I plotted. So I thought I'd share my solution to this annoying issue. My solution was found in the novel Elminster in Hell, where Mistress cured Halaster of madness by removing the insane part of his soul and using its energy to fight Asmodeus. Energy isn't created or destroyed, it just changes forms, right? So I simply postulated that this soul fragment ended up lodged in the weave and was destroyed when the weave was destroyed by Mistress' death at the hands of Sirik and Shar. When Mistra was restored and the weave was restored, that piece of Halaster's soul must still be there. So why is this important? Of course, Halaster had a clone, but with no soul, the clone is useless. The soul fragment would work, but since it's only a fragment, in order for it to find its way back to the clone body, it needs a little extra push, so to speak. Now, Halaster was crazy, but he was also brilliant. I figured he assumed, or even foresaw a time, when he had died, but his soul was lost somehow, needing a beacon of sorts to locate his clone replacement, and created a contingency for just such a thing. In the event that he died and his clone didn't arise, a table would appear in a room in Undermountain, and on that a paper was with written instructions, and if adventurers exploring his dungeon followed them, his lost soul would be able to find his clone body. The problem was that with the destruction of the weave, following the instructions would have no effect. However, Halaster had it set up so the paper of instructions would continue to appear on that table, and the table itself would continue to reform until it did. This is the situation the players happen upon as they explored the first level of Undermountain. Halaster's letter room is located on level 1, just off a south passage from the Hall of Heroes. Upon opening the door, you find yourself peering in at a room, the dimensions of which are approximately 30 feet by 40 feet, with a door just off-center to the south of the western 40-foot section. Centered on the far east wall is an old wooden table, and on the table is a piece of parchment, perfectly centered with some writing on it. There is a door centered on the south wall with caution written in large letters. Scattered about the floor are hundreds, if not thousands, of crumpled up pieces of parchment similar to the pristine one on the table, all in various states of decay. Also written in various colors of chalk all over the walls are some versions of the following: "It doesn't work. Don't waste your time. There's no danger here other than the time you waste lingering. Ignore what it says," and so on. There are also broken pieces of timber on the floor as well, and if one looks closely they might be able to discern that they are pieces of a wooden table, similar to the type on the east wall. So, finally, if one approaches the table, nothing bad will happen, and a clearly legible parchment is displayed, which reads, "Dear brave adventurers," or whomever, "it would appear that since you are reading this, something terrible has happened. I'm dead. These minor inconveniences do happen. It appears that for some strange reason, none of my apprentices have revived me, and my soul has not returned to my clone. So, I need one teensy little favor if you could, and I, Halaster Blackcloak, will be forever in your debt. Just cast one 3rd level spell, or higher if you wish, targeting this magical bit of parchment. Let me suggest against a fireball. It will still work for my purposes regardless. I will be forever in your debt, and promise you a reward of valuable treasure. Really. No, I really mean it. Surely having the Mad Mage of Undermountain in your debt can't be a bad thing, right? Thank you in advance, H. Now, during play, I actually handed a copy to my players as a prop. The letter is, of course, quite legitimate. The energy needed for the soul location to work is that from a 3rd level spell or higher. Any spell will do, but if the destructive spell is cast, the parchment doesn't negate those effects. Thus, if a fireball is cast at the parchment, apply the effects as appropriate. At this point, Halaster will awaken in his clone on level 15 of Undermountain. He will be aware of the players and be able to communicate with them. At first, nothing will have appeared to happen, but in the city of Waterdeep, a gigantic, disembodied head of Halaster Blackcloak will appear overhead, another one of his contingency spells, and a loud, booming voice that can be heard throughout the city will shout, "I, Halaster Blackcloak, live once more! I have returned!" This, of course, will be the buzz of the city once the heroes make their way back to the surface. Meanwhile, I let the players stew a bit, and about the time they decided to move into the next room, that's when a rather large, fill-the-room, disembodied head will appear before the players. Disembodied heads, it's a Halaster thing. Anyway, Halaster will thank them for their service and reward each of them with a rather nice magic item. The ones Halaster gave my players each enchanted certain abilities or characteristics, so if you use this yourself, have fun with it. The heroes should be appropriately rewarded here, But as soon as the PCs receive their reward, Halaster will then say, "Now I do have another task that I need you to perform for me. I can see things have really gotten out of hand since I've been gone," and teleport the PCs to another part of Undermountain. I had them teleported to the third level not too far from Skullport. Basically, this is a good opportunity to introduce some other element of the dungeon, side quest, or story hook you might have waiting in the queue. Anyway, that was my solution to the Halaster problem. I'm curious as to how they'll address this in the upcoming module. Furthermore, it seems they are detailing aspects of Undermountain never before revealed. The literature says they will cover 23 levels. Given the amount of text to just 3 levels in the original books, I'm wondering how they'll accomplish this in just a single volume. Anyway, that's all I have for you this outing. I hope you found it interesting. I'm still working on improving my video output and definitely have more videos coming your way. Until then, my friends, may your D20 roll true and game on.